Hey guys, this is Paul, Anna, Eric, and Ed with Curved Brim Media. And before we jump into the episode you've queued up, we want to take a moment to tell you about our newest sponsor, GlobalLeagueShop.com.
Global League works with top-notch designers to feature fantasy league and team logos emblazoned on t-shirts, hoodies, hats, stickers, and more.
Personally, some of my favorite baseball team designs from Global League are the Wisconsin Big Cheese, the Cape Cod Bog Monsters, and the Tri-City Wise Monkeys.
In addition to baseball, the shop also features fun designs for bowling and soccer teams. Say what?
Believe us when we say there is something for everyone in the family to be found at Global League.
Go check it out and join the Global League at globalleagueshop.com.
Is there anybody
It was in preparation for when they knew they were going to be the Brewers' new affiliate. And we actually designed a hot chicken in a barrel, like the old Milwaukee Brewers barrel logo. And
What's up, Dad Hat crew? Ed here, and welcome to another episode of the Dad Hat Chronicles. This week, I had the pleasure of being joined by Bradon Lamarche. He is an awesome designer, cool dude. We talked about some of the designs that he's done for baseball, some of hockey, his love for hockey. We talked about his love for hockey, and the team that we both hold near and dear to our hearts. And then this was a lot of fun. Obviously, this is part one, guys. This is part one. So I hope you guys enjoy it and come back next week so that way we can finish that episode. But listen, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, let's go ahead and shoot this episode, and you guys enjoy. All right, well, welcome back to yet another episode of the Dad Hat Chronicles. My name is Ed, and with me, guys, I have yet another designer. I'm very happy about this because, you know, I get to pick their brain and what they're thinking when they're doing designs and all that fun stuff. But this week, I have Bradon Lamarche. How are you, my friend? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. I put the call out there and you're like, absolutely, let's do it. I'm like, yes, I love doing that. So, let's just get started. Let's jump right in, my friend. Obviously we both love baseball. You have, your career through baseball and all that. And it's very interesting. I've listened to some podcasts of our mutual friend, Paul Caputo, right? You've been on his podcast and he told a story, but I want to know, one, why baseball? Two, how did you become a designer at that point?
Baseball has kind of been like a family tradition for me. My dad just kind of instilled it in me at a super early age. He grew up in Anaheim, just down the street from the Anaheim Angels Stadium, and he grew up going to games all the time with his dad, and it's just something that it's just second nature. You take your kid to the game, and I don't know. It's just something was like, it felt like it was calling to me, and that's kind of what I wanted to do from a early age, is to be it's somewhere in baseball for something. I didn't quite know what it was. Maybe it was being a player, a coach, or what. And I did dabble in a lot of that stuff. High school, I started coaching a team while I was also being a varsity player. I played a little bit of club college ball, and I was a high school baseball coach for about 6 years until COVID kind of threw the whole world, and I had to quickly pivot my career choice after that. But yeah, it was just something that has just been kind of born into me. And what got me into design was really just kind of just the love for art and design through my dad again. He wanted as a kid to be a Corvette designer. And he got close to like the second best thing. He didn't get to go to art school or anything to do that, but he ended up getting an engineering degree, and he eventually got to be the plant manager for Corvette for a couple of years. So he always tells me like that was as good as it could get. I didn't get what I wanted, but I got second best, and now he just retired last year, and he's got a Corvette in the garage. So I feel like he did his thing.
And he earned his stripes, and then now he's out.
Now he's out. He's sitting easy and golfing every day now. But yeah, and and with his job too, he worked for General Motors. We moved a lot as a kid. I lived in Mexico for a couple of years. I lived in like
What?
5 other states. And something that was unique about living in all these different places, where like these small towns or even big towns all had a minor league team, and they all had these. It was like the
Yeah.
perfect moment to be a fan of minor league baseball, because that's when Dan Simon talks about in podcasts where that's when teams pivoted from this is the Spokane Indians or whatever. Now it's the Sod Poodles or something crazy, things, names where you kind of like what's the story behind that. And I just loved that as a kid, and every place when I lived, I wanted to go to the ballpark and grab a hat and shirt and just wear these because they're so unique. And I was moving all these different places, and kids would just ask me, what is that?
Right.
I've never heard that name before. So it was really cool. It's just I love just how minor league baseball has become this unique way of storytelling, and how you can tell the story of the community, especially now where you have all these promo nights too, where they get to almost
yeah, dude.
expand the story a little bit, and you get to get into more of these niche areas. I mean, you can probably see from my portfolio with the hot rods, we have a lot of kind of niche areas in that, but yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And then from a career standpoint, I got into it from a not so typical way. I was in college as an architect student.
Yep.
And switched about my third year to education because I wanted to get a job in baseball and architecture. Even though I loved it, I got my design background from it.
You weren't going to get it. Yeah.
I wasn't going to get a job in baseball very easily. So I got my education degree and became a middle school, high school science teacher. And I ended up coaching varsity baseball and 8th grade football for about 6 years. That was kind of my trajectory to get into baseball, was to be, a part of player development or maybe as a coach somewhere. And I was definitely gearing up my resume to do all that. And then COVID happened, and it was like, oh crap. Well,
I got to pivot again.
Now I got to pivot because at the same time, I had a new daughter who was just born, had not having COVID at the same time was super scary. And so I ended up quitting that job just to stay home with her. And I was sitting there like, well, now what do I do? And what I ended up pivoting on was what I had been doing kind of since, college and that point before COVID. I had actually worked for the Hot Rods for a summer as like an intern doing basically anything that they needed. They hired me kind of late, and I did anything from ticket sales to helping out marketing. And we actually had their graphic designer quit halfway through the season, and they were kind of scrambling, and they like, what do we do? And so I kind of raised my hand. You're like, hey, I have this small background in it. I showed them my design work I did in college because I did a couple of projects for Kansas State where I went to, doing just small things. And the assistant GM at the time, Eric Leach, he literally like looked at my resume of all the designs I did and kind of just slaps me in the face of like, why didn't you tell me sooner that you could do stuff like this? And that kind of just sparked that friendship we have even till today. Me and Eric are close in that regard. And it's fun. It's a funny story how he even hired me. I came back. I actually lived in Australia in college for a time, and I came back and needed a summer job. And he interviewed me in like the winter, right before that season, and we just talked baseball. We talked minor league hats. Like he had all these trinkets and bobbleheads in the room. He had a Brooks Robinson jersey on the back, and we just talked baseball the entire time. I don't think he asked me a single question about what job I really was going to be prepared for. He just, we just vibed really good, and he shook my hand and he's like, you got a job waiting for you when you get out of school. And so that kind of just snowballed what I'm doing today. He kept asking me to do stuff for the Hot Rods, and Adam Noose, who was the GM at that time and became the GM for the Sounds for a time, kept asking me to do small things. And so I kind of just fell onto it once COVID started, and started doing that full time. And now it kind of the rest is history.
Dude, that's awesome though. Like you was like, here you go. Here's a job for you, win for you. And
Yeah,
why didn't you tell me earlier?
yeah, yeah.
Like I'm looking at your stuff right now, man. You got some cool, like super cool logos. Also, I really love your hat club stuff that
Mhm,
you got there, dude. Those are some cool stuff. We'll talk about that. But
mhm.
what was okay, so right, you started doing some logo designs and everything for the hot rods. What was your first design that you did for the team?
So when their graphic designer quit, they were kind of scrambling what to do. So they kind of pivoted and gave half of the design job to their scorekeeper,
Yeah.
did the designs and did the scoreboard during the games. And then they gave me kind of all the promo stuff. So I designed like t-shirts that we were giving away. I designed like all the freebies and like bags and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they slowly gave me stuff to wear. And this was the time where the hot rods were actually changing from their Brandios brand
Mm-hmm.
to their now, what's their current brand. I think it was done by SME
Mm-hmm.
in New York brand. And so I got to see the behind the scenes of what the whole process was, because it was really interesting. It was a very kind of a headachy process for them, because they were there in Kentucky. They knew their fans, they knew what they wanted and stuff, but they had this ownership group from New York who wanted to do something else, and they were headbutting a lot, and it was kind of a frustrating process for them. So it was unique to kind of see, every step of the way. And some of the early designs were kind of like not so great, and they were kind of not happy with what was going on, but
Yeah.
they did eventually, we were satisfied with what eventually came on. But they were definitely kind of lingering, like, if once we get control of this, we would like to kind of change a couple of things. And that kind of led to what you probably see on my resume of
Mm-hmm.
the hot rods brand refresh.
Yep. And it's right there. And then I mean, you guys, you have some like cool stuff in here, man. It's just people like you make me look so bad because I'm so horrible at all kinds of design. Like there's no way on God's green earth I'll be able to do something as cool as what you're doing. I see, like, I'm looking at the All-Star game. I'm looking at the Bowling Green bootleggers, like you got some Nashville, like you were just talking about, the Nashville sounds, the honky tonks. That's a cool one.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorites. That was
Yeah.
a fun one to do.
Yeah, and then the logo was awesome. You're showing the numbers. Of course, I wish it would have had a dad hat in that one, but I'm gonna forgive him for that. But it's cool. I get it. But talk to me about your process, right? Because every designer has their own process of how they come up with designs, or those conversations that they have with ownership or their client.
Yeah, I think my process really comes from a combination of my design background from architecture school, kind of you get kind of thrown into just design in general in the first 2 years. You really don't focus too much on, designing buildings or landscapes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then combined with, my process as a coach, I really was a person that loves to be almost over prepared. So like I dive into like the research process as much as possible, and I probably take the most time in the research process, learning about, what's the whole story behind the design, what's the story that they want to tell.
Yeah.
What's the vibe they want to give off? Is it a family vibe? Is it more of a, a tough, cool vibe, and then just, talking to people who maybe are part of the team or part of the community, what's important to them that this design does, or, why is, like I did a design for the Peoria Chiefs where they wanted a pork tenderloin design. We talked about with them, like, why is the pork tenderloin so important to Peoria? What's the message, and something that, people would want to, wear this on a hat or a t-shirt, why what's the whole point anyways to do this? And so I really get a dive into that. And then it's just, sketchbook city for a while too. That's another architecture thing. Estelle, the president of the architecture school, always told us to always have a sketchbook on you at all times. And that's something I still do today. I always have a sketchbook in my pocket, no matter what. If the idea comes on or I have a sketch to do, it's right there for me.
That's pretty cool. I like that. It's just throwing it out there. How much of the real world aspects do you take into your design? Where do you take your inspiration from? Is there various things that you do?
I think the biggest is just the design world in general and sports design. I just love, I'm on Pinterest every day, grabbing other people's work, this is, and trying to see what I can do to kind of either do something in a similar way or something in maybe the same style or whatever. There's so much out there that you can kind of almost emulate to a degree to where you can spin it in your own style. And so that's where my biggest inspiration comes from, is definitely just other people's work in general. And then just, again, the whole storytelling aspect of it. Minor League Baseball does such a great job of, getting the community involved and asking them, what do you want? What are some stories you want us to tell? And we're gonna, have some fun with it, because Minor League Baseball is basically a circus. It really is. It's entertainment at its finest, and so it's just a cool, unique way for us to tell these community stories, even if we're not from these communities. These people want their stories told in some way.
Yeah, and the community wants to be proud of their team, right? I mean, they want to be able to wear it, they want to be able to do it, and it's one of those things that, like, for me, like, when I was up in Cleveland, the Akron Rubber Ducks, that meant a lot, because it was like, it's like that is, Rubber City, all of that, and taking aspects from the city just in order for you to be proud. Same with the Lake County Captains, right? Same thing. I don't know about the Guardians right now. I'm still trying to hold on to the Cleveland Guardians one, but we'll see. So, tell me the story about this one, because this is a little different one, because and obviously never came really into too much of the fruition, but the Appalachian Red Tails.
Oh yeah. So that was one of my first designs I did during COVID. This was when I was actually talking to a couple of apparel companies like Hat Club, who are looking for designers to just kind of design unique things. Kind of be like, we want to hire these minor league designers to design cool stuff for us. And so we put them on hats. And so that just kind of was a way to build a portfolio piece.
Nice.
And it was something I was going to submit to Hat Club at some point, but as you will probably lead into for Hat Club, a lot of the stuff I ended up doing for them never got made. You kind of see on my Instagram page a lot of those designs are kind of just unique portfolio piece, but it was just some way to, I've been trying really hard these last couple of years, just trying to build up my resume, my skill set, to eventually do a complete full-on brand for a team. That's kind of the dream goal right now. I haven't quite snagged that. That's my white whale, as you could say. I haven't quite snagged it yet. But I've been close a couple of times. I've been close with two other teams where I was in the running and didn't quite
dare make it.
Didn't quite make it for whatever reason. Maybe it was price. Maybe it was, they had their guy and they were holding me as a consolation. And we got to tour their stadium, which was brand new at the time. And I remember me and Eric were talking to, some of their front office guys, and they were, all the new promos that were going on around then. I think that was like the Yard Goats first year, and then Taco versus Bacon was a big thing at that time. And so we're like, oh, we need to do something with hot chickens. And, like we were like, yeah, that'd be really cool. And,
Yeah.
I don't know, is it 8 years later, 6 years later, something like that. We finally got to do it. And it's such a fun thing to do. And it's such a, unique thing that only minor league baseball gets to away with, having, any random food item, put on a hat and you're like, yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Like, no, yeah, absolutely. I saw it and I was like, yeah, this is something that I gotta have on my wall. Like, it's just no way that I cannot not have that.
Mhm.
And the fact that like it was made and it was just such a cool. I'm a huge fan of the neon green color,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite colors of all time. And it's just like it just pops so good with the red and the black. Oh my god.
Those colors were, they picked those ahead of time and they were like, these are must haves, see what you can do. And so, yeah, it was a fun one. Cause we actually did, if their brewskis
Yeah.
designs, I did that as well. And we actually did that a couple of years ago and it kind of had to shelve it because
Mhm.
it was in preparation for when they knew they were going to be the Brewers' new affiliate. And we actually designed a hot chicken in a barrel, like the old Milwaukee Brewers barrel logo. And
Oh,
that got shelved when we shelved the project. And basically this hot chicken is kind of the reincarnation of that, where
dude.
he's swinging in a hot chili.
So let me ask you, as a designer, how frustrating it is sometimes that you put all that work and then all of a sudden they got to tell you, yeah, dude. So here's the thing. We're going to scrap the whole thing.
It happens too often, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the clientele I keep getting, but it's a part of me having my architecture background.
Yeah.
You were always told to never, just fall in love with your stuff. There's always a way to do something different. There's always something to improve. You just never be satisfied with the end product. Always
Mhm.
just,
Try to do more. Yeah.
yeah, it's like if something gets knocked down, you're like, you could use it as a portfolio piece if you want, or maybe, it's something you can use later, or you can just continue to build upon it,
Mhm.
and, it's something at that point I got used to, especially with the Hat Club stuff, where
Yeah.
we did like a year and a half worth of work and we only got paid to do, or like part of it.
Ugh.
And so, that's definitely really defeating, but it comes with the territory, and it just allows you to do more stuff.
Mhm.
You get to create, and that's the most fun part, is just to be able to take something from nothing and make something cool.
Where does this love for hockey come from? Because I can tell there is definitely some love. Obviously, there's
Oh,
baseball.
for sure.
Baseball will be number one, but there's hockey right here, man. Because I mean, you got some cool hockey logos, dude.
I would say I watch more hockey than I do baseball now, just because baseball has been such ingrained with me, and it was something I've did 24/7. I read
Yeah.
everything, all the history books, and got into coaching and watched so much film. And so now hockey's kind of my number one at the
Mhm.
moment. I grew up as a Ducks fan, because my dad,
Oh yeah,
he's
dude.
from Anaheim, and that was my first game I ever went to, was in 2003, and saw the Devils and Ducks play when they were the Mighty Ducks, and that ended up being the Stanley Cup matchup that year.
I
And
remember. Yeah.
and it was easy to become a Ducks fan because then you had the Disney movies, and those are
That's
the
how I became a Ducks fan
best
early
hockey
on.
movies
Yeah.
ever. And I don't miss again. I don't think I've missed a Ducks game in 8 years.
Really.
I watched the good years when we were getting close to a Stanley Cup, and now not so much. But we got Leo Carlson, so maybe we'll turn it around. We got Zegras and Terry. We got some good talent coming.
The Mighty Ducks will
Hopefully.
always hold a place in my heart.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
now that they're bringing back that
The
retro
anniversary
look.
jersey.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude. I was like, yes.
I like the fact that the jersey mimics the socks. Where it's is the same striping pattern as the sock. So it's still ducks, but it's still unique, still new, even though
Yeah.
it's the old stuff. It's the old patch logo on the
I'm a
crest.
fan of that old logo. I wish they would go back permanently to that one instead of what they have.
Mhm.
Uh,
That's what the fans have been wanting for years, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe so. You know, they did their reverse retro and as the old jersey, but in the current color. So you know, maybe
I
with the
hope
new
so, dude.
Fanatics contract, maybe, you know.
Hey, there you go. Like, all right, it's time to bring that stuff back. So, let me ask you, as a designer, right? You obviously you spend a lot of time on Pinterest, and you look at other things. When you look at, let's say, like logos in sports, and it doesn't have to be baseball, but overall, like, do you look at it? Do you study it? And do you like, oh, maybe I wonder why they did this. I would have done it this way. Is that something that's always going on in your head constantly?
Absolutely. And what's great about the design world today, especially with sports design, all these designers who work on the NFL, who work on the NHL, and will do all this, their stuff's on, Instagram and Twitter, and they are, such easy people to reach out to and say, hey, I have, can I pick your brain? I have a couple questions, career wise or design wise. And it's such a cool part being a part of this sports design community, because there are a lot of great designers out there who they show off their design process, and you get to kind of quasi learn from that. That helped me a lot because like I mentioned, I didn't have a traditional design school, graphic design education. I kind of wish I did. I probably would have started this a lot sooner. But here we are, and it's kind of learning from the streets in a way, and it's really cool to be able to just be able to reach out to these people and have them show, because I really got into what I do now because of the Clink Room's original iteration back when Brandios was called Plan B branding, and they kind of showed behind the curtain. This is what we do. This is how we got from this small team that had no name. Now we're the Sod Poodles, or the Yard Goats, something crazy, and then gets you to have the conversation, like, well, what's that all about? And so it's just it's a really cool community to be a part of.
Yeah. Do you reach out to other teams with like, hey man, would love to work with you? Do you do that constantly?
I don't do that constantly. I know some people do. I did at the beginning when I first started out, and I got like nothing back. And so most of my work comes from, just, word of mouth, or people going online, seeing what I've done for other teams. And you're like, hey, I like what you did. And, could you do something for me? Like I mentioned, like one of the teams that is going to be doing a rebrand in the next year or two, reached out, and it's through my Instagram work and through word of mouth from other, GMs. Who loved working with me, recommended that, hey, why don't you check this guy out? And so hopefully one day, that'll lead to doing a whole team. I've gotten really close with doing a lot of work for teams. Maybe one day I'll be doing the whole thing.
That'd be cool, though. I hope you do, man, because obviously you're a skillful dude. Like, I mean, you got some cool logos, you got some cool designs that I really love, and the fact that you dabble all into, like, not just in baseball but hockey as well. That's pretty cool stuff. What is this? The World Hockey. Excuse me, I apologize. For World Hockey, what is this logo regarding for?
So
the Alliance.
So it's the World Hockey Alliance. It's basically a portfolio piece of all of the designs I did for Hat Club. So you might recognize, if you're a fan of Hat Club, if your listeners are, and you might have recognized some of these designs. 3 of the designs actually got made Montreal, Kansas City, which I'm from, and I was super excited. I'm actually wearing it right now.
Yeah, you're right. It's a legit hat.
Yeah, so that, and well, the other one was Chicago. We were basically asked by Hat Club to do hockey designs, because at the time Adidas and Fanatics were the only people allowed to do, NHL logos on hats. And so New Era lost that contract when Reebok lost the jersey contract. And so they reached out to a couple of us designers and said, hey, can you do stuff? And it snowballed into something really big. They were going to do a lot of stuff with it, and just because of the shipping issues that COVID ended up having, they basically shelved it, and then they never went back to it.
Picked it back in, yeah.
Never picked it back up. So then, I kind of was sitting on all these designs, and I wanted to put them out there, and so I just turned it into the World Hockey Alliance, which is just a roundabout way of league of teams that just a way to create a whole league identity, I guess you could say. And if you go on my Instagram page, you'll see there's some question marks, which means we planned a lot, and there are some new designs hopefully coming out when I get around to it. Towards that, it'll eventually we'll flesh out the whole entire league.
That'll be cool, because there's some cool stuff here, man. Like, I mean, I really like Scoundrels. That's a cool one.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of my favorites from that definitely was Seattle Creatures. I did, based off of just like I did that whole identity based around obviously the Pacific Northwest, very forested. You got the lumberjack plaid on the jersey arms, and then all the cryptozoology out there. People are nuts for any sort of random mythical creatures. They could be hiding. You never know.
It could be out there.
And in doing that design specifically too, it was unique. Finding out what you could do legally. Yeah. With so we worked with New Era's legal team, and a couple of these designs, like the Chicago Bluesman I did as well, and the alternate logo for the Creatures where we had the Space Needle. Yeah. Like we can't make this into a hat. There's the Space Needle is actually a copyrighted thing. We're like, really? You can copyright a building?
No kidding. Yeah, it looks cool because it has the claw grabbing the Space Needle. Yeah, dude.
I thought it was fun. And then the Bluesman one was they were like, well, it's people might confuse that for the movie, and we just don't want to take that risk. So we're gonna have to end up doing the alternate instead of holding the guitar in the back.
The cool one, I don't know what it is, but I really like it, the New York Bull Moose.
Oh yeah. That was my first hat club design I ever did. Yeah. Before we did the hockey stuff, they were like, just go nuts, give us some ideas. And I did that, as was one of my first ones. And that's actually a redesign of the original. It looks a lot better than when I first submitted. So I'm glad they didn't end up making that one, because this one looks way better.
Yeah. And then Colorado I did Rush, man. That's cool too, man.
Yeah. It was such a fun project. I'm just so bummed that these didn't end up getting made into anything. Maybe they're if someone wants one of these designs, they're available.
Heck yeah, I mean, dude, put them in the hat, sell them to suckers, because they're cool. I hope you guys enjoy that episode, part 1, obviously, with Bradon. Make sure you guys are following him on Instagram. He is out there, guys. All his stuff is cool. Twitter. Make sure you guys are following, support him. He does put some stuff on Clink Room and all that cool stuff. I'm going to have to talk to the Brandios folks, man. We need some dad hat collection out there, okay? I know 5950 is what a lot of people like to see, but listen, we need some dad hat collections out there. All right. I digress. Listen, like I said, thank you for Bradon for coming on. I had a lot of fun. Next week, we'll finish up the episode. In the meantime, you guys can also catch me. I am going to be releasing a new radio show. It's on the On Amp app this week. My first week is this week, now that you're listening to it. And then I have a new co-host, okay? Every week I'm going to have a new co-host. This week, Donnie Wise. You guys know him. He's a really cool dude, all right? So make sure you guys catch him, download the app, interact with me. You guys can call in and also chat. We'll have a lot of fun. We're not just going to talk baseball. We'll talk all sports, okay? And you know what? Whatever comes to our mind. But listen, I'm getting ahead of yourself here. I also need to give you guys the dad joke of the episode, and here it is. What kind of house does a graphic designer live in? An Adobe. All right. I'll see myself out. And until then, guys, keep on grinding and always support the minor leagues. See ya.